comment, and then we'll take questions.
Yeah, first of all, I thought, Arkansas, a very good team, like we said, going into this week. And I think physically, we just got beat. That was one area that they did a good job. They ran the ball well. And I think one of the key drives for them was the punt that was put them in a backed-up position, and they were able to get out of that on the first play. And so their kids played hard. They did a good job, and we did have +1 in the turnover category, which was our emphasis going into the week. Take care of the football and be +1 on turnovers. So that was positive for us. But overall, stopping the run and being able to run the ball more effectively than we did, I think we're keys in the game there. So, just overall, we had too many mistakes to win a football game, and so all of us, we got to do a better job of eliminating those. And coaching, playing, preparation, it all goes back to that when you're playing good football teams. And really, both team had a bye week, so there's really no advantage there. They had a bye week, we had a bye week. We did get some guys back a little bit more healthy, so that did help us. But overall, we didn't have a good enough plan and play well enough to beat a good football team that we know is a good football team. I know they had a few losses before that BYU game, but we knew they were good, and the backs played well, and ultimately that was the difference in the game. And I think, you look at some of the stats in there as well. They were perfect in the red zone. And, in special teams, that was an area for us too. We had some opportunities there that we didn't go in our favor, and so we got to be better in those areas as well. Just field position became a factor at some point, or at some points in the game. So, but a credit to them, and we got to be much better. And so, the key for us is we go back to work on Sunday. We'll watch the film, and we'll look at what we have to do and how we improve in those areas, and the things we have to do as a staff and as a team to get better. So questions.
If you have a question, raise your hand. First one, Jason, front row.
The team was talking about just getting back on track. Where does that start for next week?
What exactly were they referring to?
They said from all sides of the ball, just needing to get back on track. I feel like they feel very defeated, it seems like. So where does it start getting on the right track?
They're defeated. As far as you lose a game, I think that's the one thing, just so we're clear on it, you put a lot of work into it. I would hope no one's happy about losing a game. Simple as that. You put a lot of time and effort into preparing yourself, and we know we're not guaranteed to win, but if it's not painful when you lose, then you got the wrong people. So I'm assuming what they mean by getting back on track is everybody, we got to play good football. That's really what it comes down to. We talked about that for a long time. We talked about it all last week as well. We emphasized that, just playing good football. Taking care of the football, tackling, blocking, just the fundamentals of the game, everybody assignment sound. Us as a staff putting our guys in a position to be successful, having the right guys in the right spots. And, obviously from the outcome of the game, no one's going to feel like what we did was good enough. So, yeah, I think everybody's in there hurting, which we should be. You lose a football game and one against a team that we felt like we had put a lot of preparation into prepare. We prepared ourselves, put a lot of preparation time in, and wanted to play a lot better than what we did today. So, I'd say frustrated, but you got to go back to work. So there's things that we know we can do and we need to do, we have to do, in order for us to be better prepared and to go out there and play better football than what we did today.
Front row, Jason.
Bryan, this defense has some guys that have played and been successful in the past, giving up 1,000 yards and 13 rushing touchdowns the last 3 games.
Yeah.
Finger on what's going on, what's going wrong?
Yeah, it's not good. I see the same thing you see. That's not good. I think one of the things, you put your finger on something, I'd say tackling. That's one area, right? We got to be able to tackle. We got to be able to tackle better. We got to get more guys to the ball. That's always an area. I don't think it's just our team. I think that's football in general. But, good defenses, good teams, they tackle well. And I think, I don't know how many broken tackles there were today, but there were opportunities for us to to create some field position to have a better opportunity for our team, and so it comes down to that. And that's on special teams as well. So, you want to be able to stop the run. I mean, that's one of the things that we talk about, that we want to be that team that can stop the run. We're not doing it. We're not doing a very good job of that right now. And I think the teams that we're playing, I think they're good. I felt like the O-line for Arkansas, we knew they were good up front. We knew those backs and that quarterback would be effective. So I don't know if we saw anything today that we didn't see on film from Arkansas. We saw the back could break tackles, and he would bounce, and if he got in open space, he could make some big runs. We saw the quarterback in one-on-one situations. He'll make you miss. You got to tackle him low. You got to take his legs out because he's a big guy. And overall, I mean, it just comes back to we got to do a better job. If we had the answers for that, we wouldn't have 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. But that's not a good stat, and that's not something that's going to help us. Obviously, it hasn't, and it's something we got to fix.
You can say your name and affiliation, please, when I call on you. Back row.
Bryan Hennessy, WBTM 13 in Birmingham. Coach, just overall this season, what would you summarize this season so far? I know you got some games to play still.
How would I summarize the season so far?
Season, yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I mean, we got to keep getting better. I mean, we're not good enough. That's just what it comes down to. And I think that's something too, just as a player, as a coach. Even when you win, I still think you always have to self-evaluate. We've talked about that. We're just not good enough. And what are we doing to get better? You can sit there and say that, but it's really, I think, everybody's got these intentions of who they think they are, and then you have the actions of who you really are. So those got to marry up. And, we can say we want to win, we can say we want to do these things, but are we good enough, and are we doing the things to put ourselves in a position to be good enough? And right now we're not. That's it. So we got to be better, and we need a lot more action, all right, than just hope and wanting to and all that. You got to work for it. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the effort. You got to make sure that every little thing you do matters, because it does. You're playing good teams. These guys, no one we play is going to roll over and just let you beat them. They're going to fight every single game. They're going to fight for 4 quarters. They're all trained that way as well, and that's what you're going to get. And so you have to be better as an individual. We collectively as a team have to be better, every single one of us, starting with me and then every one of our coaches and players, right? So we're not good enough right now. We got to be better.
To the left, Tobias.
I'm Tobias Auburn, AL.com. On that punt where they got it at the 6-yard line, at least it appeared it looked like the player touched it. What was their conversation with the refs, if any, and should a play like that be reviewable?
I didn't think he touched it. I mean, you can see it on the big screen. Yeah, I think they reviewed it. I do. I mean, I saw it. I saw it in there. One thing, the official's never going to look up at the big screen. If they're going to go review it, they'll go have their time to review, and they'll have the official go over there and do that. But there wasn't that call, and there wasn't something there that needed to be reviewed, I thought. I mean, the kid got out of the way, and the ball was, we still had good field position right there. Obviously, if he touches that and we recover it, that's a huge play. But he seemed to get out of the way on that right there, and so they didn't feel like they needed to review it.
Second row, top.
Bryan, Tom Green, AL.com. Defense has given up 40 points in 4 of the last 6 games. That unit's really been a strong point that's carried this team for much of the last few years. What do you attribute to that kind of fall off this year?
In comparison to everybody else and all the other teams that we didn't coach when we were here,
Even last year, that unit carried you guys for a long time.
Well, I think it's, I think there's, we talked about here, I mean, I think it comes down to tackling. I think the teams that we're playing, obviously we don't want to give up that many yards or that many points. So, yeah, there's things that we got to do a much better job. Well, first of all, stopping the run, number one. You got to do that. And then, we created a takeaway, which was good. That was huge. All right, that was a big thing for our defense that we wanted to get done. But, I think number one is the run game, and then, there was 520 yards they had in the game, 75 plays. We got to get off the field on 3rd downs. That's one big thing. I think they were 8 of 14, so over 50% on 3rd downs, and that's not what we want. So getting off the field on 3rd downs, slowing the run game down and really trying to make a team one-dimensional. It's hard to do that against good teams, and obviously they're scheming and they got good players, but we got to do a better job in the run game because they're extending drives. You know, that's what's happening. They're extending drives, and those drives turns into points.
Back left.
Ike Jones with the War Report. Coach, have you guys given any consideration to making any changes in the kicking game, specifically on kickoffs with Anders Carlson having another kick go out of bounds and not kicking it into the end zone as you wanted?
Yeah, we hadn't up to this point, so we'll look at it. You know, that was I think we missed a field goal today. We had one blocked. That was a long field goal, and I think one of their kids, I don't know who it was, he got his hands up, he got up in the air. You know, and when it's a little bit longer, you're trying to drive the ball. You know, you can't put all that lift on it that you normally would if it's a shorter kick. You know, so Orange is trying to drive it, and their kid got up there and blocked it. The out of bounds that hurts. You know, that just kills you in field position. So, yeah, I mean, really everything. We'll go back and look at every single thing. What's going to give us the best advantage? And again, you know, we feel like Anders is a good player. He's done some really good things. Those kind of plays where the ball goes out of bounds, and they weren't returning anything either. I think they were just fair catching it for the most part. So that hurt us in field position, and we got to do a much better job on that.
Yeah, Jacob Shin, Montgomery Advertiser. We talked to Schenk earlier. He said, you know, he thought maybe players had gotten maybe complacent or used to, you know, losing on this 40 losing. I guess, how do you change that?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, that's a message. You know, that's a message right there. I mean, losing is contagious. And you change that. You change that by how you prepare. You got to go out there and just be a winner. All right, and you got to do that at all times, and that's football, anything else you do. You got to sacrifice your time. You got to sacrifice a lot of things to be successful at anything you do. And complacency gets you beat, period. You want to win? Like, it's no fun on Saturdays at the end of the game when you walk in the locker room, you don't win. And, you know, maybe it's fun on Tuesday night. You know, if you're just there entertaining yourself and all that, you can spend the time watching film. And there's things to do. You got to put in the time. That's really what it comes down to. There's no other way. I mean, there's no getting around hard work, period. There's no way around that whatsoever. Otherwise, you're trying to get lucky or you're just hoping. And, you know, if we're not executing or we're not assignment sound and all that, that comes back to preparation. It comes back to coaches' preparation. Everybody. You know, and that really is a message right there. You want to win? How bad? And losing can be contagious, and that's scary. All right, so you know you gotta understand that. You got to see what it really is, right? And I think that goes back to just self-assessment. That goes back to you should be trying to make sure that the guys in the room are the ones that you're out there making sure that, because they see you every single day, you want to go out there and please those guys. You want to go out there and make sure that they see the work you put in, not anybody else. All right? So just like a family, I mean, you should take care of your family first. And you got to put in the time and you got to put in the things necessary to make yourself the very best you can be and as most successful as you can be. And there's no way around hard work. There's no way around dedication. That's what it takes. There's a lot of football players out there that this is all they focus on. They focus on the game. They love the game. And, you know, you don't get to play this game very long. You know, no matter how long you play, you don't get to play it for very long. And a lot of guys, college is all they got. And, you know, in order to be successful at anything, you got to dive into it. And you got to be totally committed to it. And that's got to be the focus, really, at all times. You know, so I think that's where he's coming from on that. Is just the amount of dedication, time spent, and the work that it takes to be successful. Championship teams, if you ever listen to them, you know, a coach or a player at the end of the year, there's not one person that ever says how easy it was. They're never going to say, oh, this season was easy. We breezed through it. We won a championship. You know, there was no problem with the things that we were doing. Everyone's like, all the sacrifices all the time. They're usually talking about the other teammates, too, just how everybody put in that work to be successful. So hard work there's no substitute for it.
Bryan.
Bryan Matthews, AuburnSports.com. Third quarter, your first drive, you're down 17-13. You get to the 28, I believe. Then you have the sack, the blocked field goal. They scored 2 straight touchdowns.
Yep.
How crucial of a moment was that for you in the game?
Which part?
The sack
All of it?
and the missed field goal.
Yeah, all of it. I mean, it's huge. Yeah, you're driving down. You have a chance to put points on the board. Sack kills you. You know, when you're trying to get a field goal, too, the one thing you want to eliminate is a sack. All right, you may not get the first down, but you have field position, and every yard matters, right? So a chance to put points on and really score, you know, come out at half and score. And when you don't do that, all right, you get a block. And anytime there's a blocked punt, blocked field goal, I mean, those are big in games. You start looking at stats and all that. Block kicks are huge. All right, that's one of the things that shows up in games where when you have a block kick, it's not good for your team. But then the 2 scoring drives after that, that's, you know, we don't answer. You know, you're playing a good team, they score, you got to answer. You got to put points on the board. You got to answer back. You got to be able to do that. When you get down a couple drives and they got 2 scores and you don't, time starts to run out. And they had a 7-8 minute drive in there too. You know, so now the clock becomes a factor. All right, so they had one big play where they were backed up and got down there. I think it was like 44 seconds, 50-second drive, and then they had a 8 minute drive. So you got to answer. And to me, like that's complementary football. You got to stop them. You got to score. If they score, you got to score back. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Right? When the other team scores, you got to go out there offensively. You got to put points on the board. Otherwise, you know, again, they drive down there and score again. You start getting behind, obviously, and it becomes a different ball game.
You got 2 more. Jason.
Bryan, you're talking about the kind of losing part, contagious part. What's been different from starting 6-2 last year to 3-10 the last 13 games? What's been the difference in that from a team standpoint?
Yeah, well, I don't think we have quite our finger on it right now as we change that. You know, there's things that we see in every practice. It's not every game. It's everything we do. It's everything we do. It's the amount of time we spend preparing ourselves. It's the commitment to what we're doing. It's the planning that the coaches and everybody puts in. It's the execution. You know, it's football. I mean, really, at the end of the day, we're not playing good football. And I really believe that. I think that's the one thing. I think good football wins games. And great things will happen when you play good football. All right? So when you are able to stay ahead of the chains on offense, when you're able to make the plays on defense, when you have a chance to make those plays, all right, they don't become explosives. I think that's another factor in the game as well. There were some explosive plays, and those become touchdowns. But playing good football, I think, is the key. And, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, just going out there and having that conviction for every single thing that you're doing. You know, I'm a big believer on that. We talk about discipline. Discipline's one thing. It'll get you where you need to be and what you're supposed to be doing and all that. This game is about toughness. There's a lot of grit that you have to play this game. But the conviction piece is the key ingredient, in my opinion. You got to believe. You got to believe in yourself, believe in your team, believe in what's happening. And it really does come down to that. Then you can go out there and play. And so I don't know the answer to that. We try to fix it, but I think there's things that are telling that we've seen that we're working on that it's got to come together. You know, and that's the thing. When you got to play good complementary football, it's all those things in a 4-hour window that have to come together. And that's the beauty of all the preparation and time you put in is to make that happen. That's the real challenge, is to have all those things come together when it counts. And, you know, right now they're not coming together when it counts. And that's going to lead to losing football games. All right, when you can put that together when it counts, you're playing good football, you have a chance to win games, you're in ball games. And then that belief, when you're in ball games, that belief is what gets you to the end of that game in a position where you can win.
Advice.
Well, I guess a somewhat positive note. Can you talk about the play of Camden Brown today as a receiver and his connection with Robbie Ashman? Yeah,
I thought, you know, young player. I thought he stepped up. I thought he did some really good things. He also had a couple blocks in the game, too, that were big for us. He's a guy, he cares. He works hard. He's a young guy. He's learning, but he cares tremendously. Damari Alston cares. You know, there's guys in this team, they care. They want to win. You know, we got guys that come in there and they got their heads in their shirt, which is how you should feel after a game like that. Not everybody's like that, but that's how you should feel, and those kids do that. You know, they're frustrated. They want to win. And they want to figure. I think Camden's a guy. The one thing about Camden is he had a couple plays in the Ole Miss game that weren't his best, and that was addressed, and he responded. You know, and that's one thing too. When you see that, and it's not what anybody wants to see, but you go out there and respond as a player. He didn't blow it off. He didn't say, "Oh, that's no big deal," or "That doesn't matter." I mean, he went out there and worked hard at it, and he made it his personal mission to get better at that, to play faster, to play harder, to learn more, to be better prepared going into a game. And then you see the result of that. It's not complicated. I mean, he is more committed, right? But he's learning as he goes, and he understands, okay, there's more commitment that's needed. There's more time and effort that's needed. There's more physicality that's needed in order to play the way he wants to play. And he goes out there and works like that, and then it shows up in the game. So we got some good young players that understand that. And I think that's one of the key ingredients that we all have to have. I think that's anything you do, you got to have that kind of attitude towards, you know, what you want to get better at, and then you got to have that work ethic to go out there and do it. And he's one of those kids that does that and showed up today. I'm proud of him. You know, I'm proud of him for being a young player that made an impact in the game. We didn't win the game. And I tell guys all the time, even when you lose, some guys play really well. We don't play well as a team and as staff and all that, but some players really step up, and they do some really good things even when you lose. And so we got to keep building on that, and we got to get others, all right, to follow.
Coach, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have a good afternoon.